Welcome to Celestial Small Talk with Alice
and CJ. Celestial Small Talk refers to the big ideas, profound revelations, and deep connections that are created in the briefest of encounters. It is often in these moments that an imperceptible shift in thought can bring about the biggest change, helping us to more fully embody our intuition. We strive to inspire, illuminate, question, provoke, and spark the unique constellation within.
So CJ, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling a lot better now. I was numb for about 4 hours after my first filling ever. I made it almost 35 years without a single filling in a tooth. And honestly, the worst part was the Novocaine.
Wow, you can check that off your list.
Exactly. It was a brand new experience. How are you doing today?
I'm doing better right now. Today was a little bit more emotionally draining than I had expected it to be. I had to do a lot of things I didn't expect to do, and sort of unexpectedly, that's kind of the theme of the day, right? Having to grieve things I didn't think I had to grieve. So, and then I was trying to get into my shower and take a bath just to like calm myself down, and it wasn't working. It was cold water the whole time, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, a cold water bath is not worth it.
Definitely not worth it. But I had my dinner, and I'm super excited to get into this. So this will be
Absolutely.
this will be my happy place.
For sure. Well, this is such an exciting thing that has occurred, and this is our first episode of Celestial Small Talk. So, yay for that. And we've decided to start each episode with a ritual and intention. So, Alice, what do you want to share with us today?
Today we were gonna get into a character analysis, which is one of my really, my very favorite things. And in today's space, in this conversation, I want to embrace authenticity, curiosity, growth, and my love slash obsession for astrology. I intend to mindfully listen, not to respond, but to understand. I intend to share my knowledge, my insights, my opinions responsibly and with compassion. Um, I intend to connect with our listeners, and doing that through being as vulnerable as I can, because connections doesn't happen without vulnerability. I'm hoping to provoke even more questions, because that's the first step of learning something new. You get a little curious and you just keep digging and digging and digging, and then next thing you know, you have this whole wealth of knowledge of something entirely different that you didn't expect to learn. And I intend to put any healthy habits that I'm striving to do more often into practice. What about you? Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would definitely echo everything you said. And I think that the whole goal of putting this conversation on display is so that way we can put forth those intentions to others in their connections with themselves and with other people. And I just wanted to add that I lit a candle for abundance today so that we all attract unlimited resources, power, and compassion. As we realize our destinies as our true selves. And since the collective idea is to sort of come to this episode calm and rooted in our bodies, and Alice, you already talked about sort of these unexpected things that made you feel agitated and off of your routine. So I think it would be really nice to start with a breath together,
Yeah.
where we're just going to sit nice and comfortably, roll out our shoulders, roll out our neck, anything else that might feel like it hasn't gotten some love today. And just start noticing the breath. And we're going to think about inhaling positive intentions, authenticity, mindfulness, and connection. And maybe exhale out any lingering worries, stress, resentfulness, restlessness, or self-doubt. And so for the next little while, let's concentrate on the here and the now.
That's beautiful. That was really beautiful.
So today we are going to be in for such a treat. Alice has amazing astrology skills and wants to use them in a really fun way. So Alice, you've talked about this as being a character analysis. Why characters? Why fictional characters specifically?
Um, there was so when I meet somebody new, or when I have to figure out how to deal with an interpersonal issue, I tend to fall back into astrology because I want to, gain some guidance, some clarity from both sides. If there's transits happening that's causing any kind of agitation from either of us, are we not seeing something clearly? And I've been doing that as a practice, going into just dealing with life in general. I do daily forecasts, so I kind of know what to expect every day, and just be 100% like authentic. Just because I know something's happening does not mean I can really, control how I feel about it. I can do my best, but really, you just have to ride the waves, as best you can. But because I do these things so often that sometimes when I watch a movie or show, I would start having these analysis in my head, and I would say, "Oh, this character is a Virgo," or like that character is a totally, a Taurus, or oh, that's a Sagittarius. I just have, and it's got really fun, and I just really want to share, and I want the first episode of Celestial Small Talk to be something more lighthearted, but also like pretty authentic to me as a person. I want to share this part of me that's kind of, sort of a nerd thing that I do. There's just so much more you can play around with them, like just so much more. And it gets like, I don't want to start off with something too serious, and also with the risings, we don't have a lot of birth times for like any celebrities, if we want to do analysis on them. So it's hard to do a full analysis on certain celebrities, but I intend to eventually get into, doing more celebrity analysis. I think that'd be fun as well. But I just want to start off with something lighthearted and, just for fun.
Well, I think that all of us are going to learn a lot from you. And I love the idea of your brain sort of doing this all the time. You're talking to a professional nerd. So we are here embracing all of the nerdiness that we are bringing to the table. And you thought for a while about this character. You had sort of gone back and forth between a couple of characters. So how did you arrive at who you're going to talk about today?
Yeah, so when we first talked about character analysis, we did talk about the possibility of the character being a Taurus. And because it's Taurus season, so that was where my brain was at. But what's drawn me is not, this idea at all, and it's just something intuitive. And I was looking at the May Disney Plus releases and all the, the shows and the movies that are coming out, and then I saw they have 22 versus Earth, and it's just like this little cute clip of like, how 22, is trying to keep her friends there and doing whatever she can to like keep her friends on the Great Before. By the way, there will be spoilers for the movie Soul and possibly 22 versus Earth. So if you haven't seen them, come back later. um, but yes, so I just like the movie Soul kind of hit a different spot for me. I've always loved Pixar movies. They always trigger something so, so deep and beautiful and transformative in me every time I watch them, and most of the time I would cry. Um, but the soul, it kind of sparks more questions than answers, and it was kind of an interesting experience. And I've talked to other friends of mine, and they get mixed signals. I get mixed, feedbacks from them. Some of them really love the movie, some of them really hated the movie. But I don't just go one or the other. I kind of can appreciate, a movie, despite all the plot holes you can see, so yeah, so when I thought about soul, it it sparked something in me, it sparked a conversation I want to share, and that's why I chose soul. And it's just because 22 versus Earth was there, and I just thought 22 is such an interesting character. And when we get into it a little bit more, you see how it's interesting for this particular episode.
For sure, because again, spoilers, the idea is not quite a real human yet. This character 22 is in the great before and hasn't yet arrived in a body, which is such a big part of the story, is inhabiting your body. And so while the movie had some of those plot holes and some of those things that we can potentially get into in this conversation, what we're really talking about is that spark within, and that is sort of the impetus for this entire podcast. So what was it about this idea of spark that drew you to 22?
Um, there's just a lot of things we tend to overlook every day, and I always try to live by this idea of mindfulness, and you just appreciate the little things. And every at the end of the day, every day, I would write in my journal what I'm grateful for, and even if it's just a really the day like today, I would still try to find little things that I'm grateful for. Um, and this whole idea about how the souls are malleable at the very beginning, and how they're programmed into these the person's like who you are as a person is already programmed in a certain way, but not entirely. You need that little spark. And then it made me think about how everybody on earth right now, as I assume that you've already gotten an earth pass, and that's why you're here, which means every single person on earth actually wanted to live at one point or at the beginning of their lives. And it sort of sparked this deeper conversation I have with myself about how a lot of people have lost that spark. And they lose it so long that they started to question reasons to live, and there are other things that would follow. Um i i i just wonder, how anybody can find a spark again. Like, how do we help each other find sparks again? Because if you watch 22 versus Earth, you find that one of the soul's spark is just to be there for other people. I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, we
And
need
also this
people like that in the world.
we do. And I love this embracing this reality that everyone is so different. Everybody just has like six little slots. Or is it, I think it's six or seven little slots on their thing. And and that's their determinate personality, and everybody's different, but they're all kind of accepted, like, no, that's just that, like, that's who they are. And that's something that I'm working on still, accepting everybody as they are authentically, and as, myself authentically. And it's a journey. It's been a journey for sure.
So when you're talking about people being pre-programmed, is this the link with astrology? Is sort of where and when you're born, there are certain things that are going to be pre-programmed into you?
Of course. So So when you look at somebody's chart, right, everybody's not just a sun sign. Everybody has a moon sign, a Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter. Everything has a sign, and each of them has a different meaning. Each planet carry a different signification. So when you look at somebody's chart, when people born around the same time tend to have the same tendency or values, or they act said to be the same way, and that can be explained with looking at their aspects between their different planets, which aspects are conversations or like the relationship, the harmony or disharmony between the different planets in somebody's chart. And I find it to be interesting because somebody would ask me, like, just because somebody's born on the same day doesn't mean they're the same person, they're the same people. Or, just because somebody's born in the month of May do not make them, similar, too similar. And what I love about this character is that she does not have a rising yet, because she is a soul. She has not hit the body, and a rising is when the soul hit the body. And I'm so excited to share with you how I actually found her rising. And it's actually exact, and it was just like, oh my God, I got it. It was really fun. When I was looking through this thing, I was like looking at the time of the year, the movie was based on. So is it like summer, fall, spring? Because then I'll kind of give you like a direction of where, like, the what time the where I would find the rising, sunrise and sunset times. Um, and that would be, how I would calculate, because every 2 hours your rising sign changes. So everybody's born within the 2 hours in the same location, probably are pretty similar. That's like the cases of twins, although twins can have very different manifestation of the same energy, and it's because they're side by side, they tend to you have more of an extreme of differences, because they're like, oh, they're already like that, I don't want to be like that, I'm just going to be my own version of this manifestation, kind of thing. um and so I was looking at the indication of time of year, and it looks like fall, so, and then based on what I've already determined for 22 with her sun, the sun sign is your motivation, is who you strive to be, it's your core personality. And with everything that she's doing, she's very analytical, she's very like matter of fact, she's like, I don't want to go to earth, I already know everything about it, you know like, I already have my routine here, it's comfortable, I have my Sudoku, it's not great, but I know what to expect. And it sounds really like an earth sign, like somebody who just likes to be grounded, be and a little bit of a cynic, and actually, um I found this thing on Google where, it's kind of like a one line expression of who 22 is as a character. And it says she's a moody, extroverted cynic who's extremely punctual. And there's no way that she can be anything else but a Virgo. And but then this moody part was kind of interesting, because Virgos are not typically moody. So that, led me to think, okay, her moon is something completely different. And based on the things that she's done in the movie, um, like how she enjoys yelling at people, just shush, like she's like, I like to spontaneously shush people, or she would just be really difficult for these mentors to help her, and she, like, you can tell she's just trying to be difficult, she just resists all the help. um and I put that together, and she's kind of like love this chaotic energy, and she's also very mercurial, very analytical, very intelligent, um and very philosophical. And it put up together, um it's just like she can't be anything else but a Gemini moon. Gemini moons are very they're not moody. They can be detached when they need to be, but their energy is sort of really social, all over the place, sort of. And she is social. 22 is very social. She enjoys conversations with other people. When she was down to earth, she was just like at the barber shop, she'd make conversations with anybody, no problem. um and then this part about moody, you know kind of meant like the sun and the moon are squaring each other, and that's why like you get a lot of extreme kind of like uncomfortable emotional responses. But because she's a Virgo and Gemini, it doesn't it's not like a water sign when they would like cry, or they would get like hysterical, or they would get more like an emotional response. Her way of being moody is sort of more sarcastic, and just to the side that that's just more like just trying to like subtly piss people off, sort of thing. Like she just wants to irk things to happen. And there was one time when she's trying to try out to be a firefighter, and she said, "Oh, the fire is really pretty. I kind of want to let it spread." That's a total Gemini move. um
Not a sociopath? Okay.
well, there could be some correlation, not causation, correlations. um
Understood.
and then when I this journey of me finding out her rising is so fun, because I'm like, okay, this is the time of year. So then I look at the time for the sunrise, because then I count off, like I can count off every 2 hours. And then I was like, okay, what time is it that she actually entered Joe's body? Because that's the time that your rising is. It doesn't mean that it's not her body, it's a body, right? So when she entered his body, I was like watching the screen like a hawk. I was like, where is there a clock on the wall? Is there indication of time anywhere? And that was actually really fun to do that. And at the time where when Joe got a call from Curly and missed it, there was a time on the phone, and I was like, yes. And
Nice.
it said
Good
it was
eye.
thank you. And then it says it was 2:37 p.m. and I calculate it, and it turns out she's a Sagittarius rising, which I had already suspected, because Sagittarius risings are very sort of, you can tell that she acted completely differently, the way she was before. Like she was more of like, I don't want to deal with anything, I don't want to try anything new anymore, I've tried everything. But when her soul hits the body, she was down for trying things. She was down, and starting with the pizza, and then she started collecting little mementos, mementos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or souvenirs.
From souvenirs everywhere, and especially when she experiences or interacts with somebody who is following their passion. So the person playing the music on the in the subway, or the spool thread,
I didn't
that
pick it up
her
in that way. I appreciate you elucidating that.
yeah, so I love the little details. She just like really appreciates when people follow their passion. That is such a Sagittarius trait. And and for Sagittarius rising, it is, the way they go about life is a quest to conquer. Life is, you know is a search for adventure, and the price you seek is meaning. And then self-awareness is higher. Self-awareness comes through expanding your horizons, in any level, physical, mental, spiritual. And you can see a lot of that shift, when 22 actually had a body, and she was just getting more, and she starts seeing and appreciating life. um, in a different way. And I really appreciated that. And I really love when my theories are, sort of proven. That's one other reason why I really love character analysis, because, when I start having an idea and like a theory, or and then I keep watching, and then it keeps sort of, affirming what I say. And then sometimes they do say, oh, this is, my birthday or something. And I'm like, yes, I knew it. And those are like the best moments.
Well, that sounds super fun. And I love the fact that you are taking something that you are clearly super passionate about and want to further develop into this fun realm of here are some Pixar movies that resonate with me, and this is what I figured out about these characters. Is there anything else you want to add about either that movie or the characters or their interactions with each other?
I love that she made jazzing a verb, and that is such like a, sort of creative move that is, very Sagittarius rising. Like she's like, life is, it's like about jazzing you, you just, you just do it. Just do it and not think about, don't overthink things too much. And it kind of reminds me of improv, like sometimes you just need to embrace the moment and just, see where it goes. And not to, not to overthink things. Um, and I kind of relate to, like, recently I joined an improv class, just to get my wheel going, because I'm actually going to attend an improv class in like 2 weeks. Going back after what, a year and a half of like not doing
Hmm.
improv. So I really missed it, but it was like riding a bicycle. Like as soon as I hit it, it's like, oh, I got this. Like I know what to do. And it was so freeing, and I loved it, and I need to do it more often. Um,
I love that idea of it being freeing because this idea of 22 sort of freeing, herself from the great before by finding this spark through sort of Joe's experiences was really unique, I thought. And the fact that it came, like you just said, from those little moments where she connected with someone who was following their passion and she could see people who were getting into that state of flow, like Joe, like the young trombone student, like Curly, like everyone else that Joe performed with, and 22 sees that as a reason to come to Earth.
mhm, mhm. And there's a lot of things I sort of was I had difficulties with a few of the details of the movie,
Me
and I
too.
think I think the movie wasn't or isn't as popular as it should be because of these ideas that it's so, you know, boldly, you know, like these choices that it makes, because people have different ideas about what's, afterlife is like, and what to be expected, or who's going to be beyond, when we take our last breath. And so for it to bring all these things like for it just be like, this is my idea of what it is, this, that's really bold. I think that's really courageous to put it out there. But I do, there's a few things I'm like, oh no, that can't be right. um but I have sort of like this thing about, sort of, I watched it again a few times, and I realized that for me, being caught up in these little details was actually missing the point of the whole movie. Is, you're not supposed to be paying attention to all these little details, because 22, she was there for thousands of years, going through all these, like, youth seminars, and still not finding the spark, because she was so caught up in, she called this earth hellish, like she just saying this place is that she just, so she knows all the negative things, or all the things that are, can use some improvement, on earth. And she wasn't looking at the things that are, are actually what it is about, all these things that, because we get carried away with what we should do, what we should think, how we should be, and just forget to be, in general, and just exist. And that it's okay to exist as long as what it is you're existing for.
Hmm. Yeah, you talked about this idea of everyone having a spark and losing it. And a lot of that comes from just living in general and sort of getting out of that child mindset of curiosity and wonder and being willing to make mistakes. Adults don't want to look stupid doing something, and so they find all the reasons. I should say we, because I should count myself as part of these adults that I'm talking about. Like, we tend to stay in the familiar rather than venture out into something new because of that fear. And therefore, we stop giving ourselves opportunities to experience that spark again. And that seems to be sort of what happened to Joe. He felt like he had been doing what he needed to do to make a living, to make his mother happy, to pay the bills, and he wasn't happy, he wasn't fulfilled, and therefore he needed to be reminded of what all those beautiful things were in his life that were worth living and coming back to.
Yes, absolutely. I I think the movie is pretty profound in its way of, kind of like knocking us beside our heads, and like, there's more to life than commuting. There's more to life than, chasing these ideals that somebody told us to chase. And, like, why do you need to do all that, and I love that you brought up this thing about the kids mindset, right? Why does that mindset have to be kids? We should keep it, we should keep it as much as possible. And that's why, like, doing improv is so awesome, because you get to be whoever you want to be, and you get to say whatever you feel like saying at that very moment, and no judgment is there. And and you have unconditional support anytime, and that's just such a beautiful thing. And I think that we should all have a little bit of that, carry a little bit of that with us every day. um, and this thing about being, authentic, and being like, just be okay with looking silly, be okay with looking, um, quote unquote stupid, or, be okay with feeling weak, be okay with just not fulfilling these ideals that, I don't know who this person is that they think everybody should be, but that person doesn't exist. Um,
Mm.
and we all should just be ourselves, because this movie embraces all the different character traits. Whatever you have, insecurities, like that, you five are insecure, and you 12 is self-absorbed. Like, I
Yeah,
was
I was like, why are you doing that to them, Jerry?
and I guess it's just like, okay, should I embrace this quote unquote, insecurity that I have, or like, or self-absorbance that I, carry with me? Do I embrace it, or do I try to change it? Like, there's different ways. Like, how do you live 100% authentically? Because you do have to embrace everything that you are, and sometimes you are gonna be insecure, sometimes you are gonna be a little self-centered, and you have to be okay with that.
We're all human, right? That's part of the human existence, is existing in these bodies and making mistakes and hopefully learning from them and growing and maintaining whatever it is that fills us, metaphorically and physically as we're going through this.
Hmm. Absolutely. I really find interesting, one part of the movie was the curated museum, of
Mm.
of his life, and then it made you think, what would my museum look like?
Absolutely. Of course you thought that right away. Because you see the one guy who had like, what was he, a German astrophysicist or something? And, he had all these awards and everything. And it's just like Joe on the couch and Joe in a diner. And, from the outside, you're like, oh, that's a sad, lonely existence. But then you realize everyone's life gets to have those moments, and you'll only consider them sad and lonely if you judge them that way. But if you're there in that moment and embracing the beautiful apple pie you were eating by yourself in a diner, then like fucking do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a moment that kind of hit for me as well, because I have been in this trap, right? Of doing the next big thing, or doing, like something significant. That's sort of like a Mars and Leo thing, where like I want meaning to everything I do. And I want to lift everybody up, and I want to bring, so much thing. And I just keep chasing these things and not really realizing that there's beauty in every little thing. Like I can appreciate sitting on the couch, and I can really appreciate sitting on the couch after like I'm running around like crazy in my day,
Hmm.
and like at the end of the day I'm like, oh, finally I get to sit on the couch. Like that's actually a glorious moment. There's just, and then commuting, that's just like, I honestly, if I had my museum curated, it'll probably be me driving the car a lot, because I commute so far all the time for work. And but then in this, I start appreciating these drives because they are me time for me. That was a moment for me, and I'm just here. I don't have to answer to anybody. I can listen to my books and my music, or just be in my thoughts. And we have forgotten to appreciate those things.
Yeah, and it's a subtle mindset shift. Like you said, you can sit there and be frustrated in traffic, or you can be relishing in this time you get to do exactly what you want to do. Listen to whatever music, listen to whatever book, and just be there and see that that is good enough because it's exactly what you need to be doing in that moment.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, that's all I have, really, for the character analysis with 22 and Joe. I do have some ideas of what Joe would be. So if you're interested in hearing about it, let us know, and I will get onto it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing all of your expertise and sort of all the fun tidbits that you pulled out from the movie and your extensive astrological knowledge.
You're welcome. So, in this process of talking about the movies and discussing about this, we've been preparing for this for, about a week. And we had intend to, for me to do a forecast for the week to come. And then you would do a tarot poll based on that forecast. But then what happened last night?
Yeah, so I rewatched Soul and had some new revelations as I was watching, and sort of looked at some of the notes you had written on what you wanted to talk about. And as I was pulling from my deck last night, I thought that I was going to be answering a different question, and immediately the answer came through me like, nope, this is your collective like reading for the podcast tomorrow. So I'm going to dub this the soul quote full reading. Because it came through super, super clear, which has not been always how I experienced the tarot. So it was really exciting for me to kind of channel this message directly through this deck. So I have been using the Numinous deck by Noel Arthur Nimple, who self-identifies as a white, transgender, non-binary, and gender fluid queer, gray asexual, neuroatypical, and able-bodied at the time of the publication of the guidebook in 2018. And I was really drawn to this deck in particular because of the intersectionality of it. And I have since learned a little bit more about sort of cultural appropriation and the tarot, and want to be completely clear that this isn't any sort of a divination tool. This is a way of gleaning messages from the moment. And so when Alice's astrological character analysis sort of channeled this message through the tarot, it just goes in tandem with some of the messages that she had mentioned. So nothing about this is divinatory. It isn't. I'm not intending to culturally appropriate any of the practices that are closed by the Roma or the Romani people. So with all that being said, I want to share with you some of the things that I learned through the tarot deck in relation to what Alice said. So the two cards that came out literally jumped from the deck, which usually means to me, this needs to be heard. And the two cards that came out were the Nine of Vials, which is this deck's version of Cups, and the Explorer of Candles, which is this deck's version of the Knight of Wands. So I thought that these cards worked really interestingly together, but then also in relation to your astrological forecast or your astrological character analysis. Because when I saw the Nine of Vials, I really felt this idea of a renewed concentration on caring for our emotional well-being. Vials or cups are always the card about emotion. And the nine is sort of a card of contraction just before a big expansion. So there is a little bit of work that needs to be done before the next stage can happen. So when we see this card, it's an invitation to choose all of the wonderful things that can fill up our cups. So when you think about 22 going through this U seminar, she went through it hundreds of times, but she never really connected with anything. She never fully lived the beauty of life until she visited Joe's body. And I thought that was interesting because we're talking about this idea of soul, and so much of what we experience that brings us joy is experienced through the body. So you don't actually have a physical reaction to something that brings you joy or makes you feel nervous or gives you fear. And so once 22 inhabited a body, she was able to actually feel those wonderful things that could actually fill her up. So when we maintain awareness of those feelings, particularly to the things that fill our cups or drain them, we can begin to cultivate more of what fills us, which is sort of this idea of this curated museum that we're going to be putting together all of these moments in our lives that fill us up. So 22 helped Joe be reminded of this heavenly scent and taste of New York pizza that I was so excited you already mentioned, Alice, because my mouth is watering just thinking about it. She, in Joe, you talked about the subway performer who just had this gorgeous voice, and that's the scent, that's your hearing. Or the light that was coming through that maple tree, you're using your eyes for that. And that helicopter leaf that lands in our palms, we're using our sense of touch, which you don't feel on a soul level, you feel that in the body. So this Nine of Vials is this idea of cultivating the moments of beauty wherever we can and allowing them to fill up our cups. And it's also an offering. It's an entrusting of feelings, vulnerability, so we can allow ourselves to be fully seen, fully heard, and feel fully worthy. Because I thought that it was super cute, the relationship that developed between Joe and 22. They ended up profoundly caring about each other and really seeing the other at their most vulnerable moments and holding space for them. So when I saw the Nine of Vials, that sort of gave me those messages alongside this Explorer of Candles, it felt like we were reclaiming our focus on the present, on those moments in between, and on connection. You talked about improv before, and Joe felt that improvisational need when he was jazzing with the other musicians. And that's something that we all strive to experience. The other guy had it while he was twisting, twirling the sign around. And you're like, you do you, buddy. If that's what gets you in the flow, then absolutely go for it. And whenever I see a court card like the Explorer, particularly the Explorer, it is this idea that we're already on a journey. And we're approaching it ready and buoyed up by those things that we have used to fill our cup. So there isn't really a linearity to it. Is that the right word? It's more spiralic. It's more like you do both concurrently. You don't have to do one and then the other. So when we are on this journey and consistently bringing in these things that fill our cup, every beautiful moment we have, or every moment that we're alive, becomes a beautiful moment. And I really believe that 22 didn't understand the purpose of life until she experienced what it was like to be in a body, to pay attention to those sights that take our breath away, or the music that brings us to tears, or the spark of creativity that leaves us vibrating with adrenaline. And that's why I wanted to start out this whole podcast with sort of a grounding activity, because our bodies are the source of all the information we need to know about finding that spark within and how to find those things that fill up our cups. So the overall message that I felt was sort of the collective of what you shared and then what these cards shared is that we all need to take care of our bodies and making sure that we find that spark within.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, and our next section will just be my astrology forecast for the week of Sunday the 9th through Saturday the 15th. And before I get into this, I just want to thank you so much for listening. This is our very first podcast, and you know, as expected, I was nervous. I was very excited as well, um, and I really appreciate anybody who's listening and who's joining us on this journey. As you know, we also grow through you know daring greatly.
Well said.
Thank you. So Sunday the 9th, which is Mother's Day, we have Aries moon square Pluto in Capricorn sextiling Jupiter in Aquarius. It's a very intense and possibly very uncomfortable. Unfortunately, we might feel manipulated or controlled or pressure into feeling a certain way, and that might spark internal and external conflicts. Emotions are exaggerated and overflowing. People are possibly wanting to be more direct and blunt, but feel like they can't. So try to stay present and be kind and check in with yourself once in a while. On Monday the 10th, Taurus moon sextile Mars in Cancer, conjunct Uranus in Taurus, and square Saturn in Aquarius. So most likely we will feel rebellious and spontaneous, but with minimal follow through due to the weight of the restrictions and limitations we face. Tuesday the 11th, new moon in Taurus sextile Neptune in Pisces, Mars in Cancer sextile Uranus in Taurus. It is a new chapter beginning that feels dreamy, romantic, and creative. Amazing day to manifest your goals because if your subconscious will be listening harder, it might feel like a revolution is coming, and we're not mad about it. Don't be afraid to ask for everything you want. Anything is possible with this new moon. Wednesday the 12th, Taurus moon trine Pluto in Capricorn, squaring Jupiter in Aquarius, Mercury in Gemini trine Saturn in Aquarius, and Gemini moon conjunct Gemini Venus. Um, transformation is happening, and we can feel it. We are optimistic that luck is on our side, but we are serious and prudent and diligent about our goals. We're more social and talkative, excited to share about new ventures and tasks completed. And actually, um, it's an excellent time to pitch a new business idea to an investor. And I'm actually very excited because that'll be our second podcast recording.
Whoop, whoop.
Excellent day for that. Thursday, the 13th, Jupiter moves into Pisces and Gemini moon trines Saturn in conjunct Mercury. Sun would be sextiling Neptune. So expect abundance and luck to flow more easily in the next 2 months as Jupiter moves into its home sign. And we'll sort of wake up, ready to have a serious conversation about the future. It's sort of like, I want to seriously dream today. It's sort of like, a dreamy vibe, but also really, really dedicated. So it's a great day to commit to spiritual practices, meditation, and art expressions. Friday the 14th, Gemini moon square Neptune in conjunct Pluto and trine Jupiter in Aquarius. So it is more confusing. So confusion intensifies and we might get moody over it. The more we want information and details, the less clarity there is. So maybe it's not time for you to know everything yet, and it's okay that you don't have all the answers you need at this very moment. Everything will fall into place. Saturday the 15th, Mars in Cancer in conjunct Saturn in Aquarius, Cancer moon sextiling Taurus in your Taurus Uranus. So watch out for mood swings for sure, or events that might make you feel restricted, helpless, or emotionally attacked. Try to stay grounded, go for a walk, journal, paint, listen to music, and cry if you feel like crying. Cry if you have to. We'll all feel this on a collective level, so you will definitely not be experiencing it alone.
Wow, sounds like a very packed week with astrological movings. Thank you for that, Alice. Anything else that we want to end on or say to our listeners?
I just want to say thank you, and I'm so very excited for this journey, and I can't wait to see where we're gonna go. I can't wait to show more and teach more and learn more and connect more.
Well said. Thanks, everyone. This week's tangible takeaways. Astrology, when used appropriately, is an advantageous tool that allows us to see the bigger picture and to provide deeper understandings and insights into ourselves and others. We are more than our sun sign, and everyone is unique in their own way. Do you know your sun, moon, and rising signs? Your ascendant, or rising, signifies yourself, your body and identity, how you present to the world, your social nature, how you approach your external environment, and tells you how different areas in your life manifest. Your moon signifies your emotional nature and processing, instincts and sensibility, and how you act when you are stressed. The house your moon is in can tell you which areas of life are affected and fluctuate based on your emotional well-being. When was the last time you felt that spark of joy? Where did you feel it in your body? What caused it? Take note of those wonderful moments in your life and curate more of them to fill your cup. Journal about your gratitude. The law of attraction states that the more we notice the bright sides of life, the more these moments will present themselves to us. Pay attention to your breath. Whether it's before you respond, speak your mind, express your feelings, or just when you need a moment, your body will thank you and your spark will soon follow. You can reach us at celestialsmalltalk@gmail.com, on Instagram @celestialsmalltalk, and on YouTube under Celestial Smalltalk. Please listen, like, review, share, grow, learn, and love.